Yeah, it's fine. Thanks.
Sorry.
It's okay.
So modernize its nuclear command. You're not going to get too much. The con or the neg side ground is going to be fairly hard on this, and you're going to get topics that are going to be like going to have a hard neg ground. Like you're not. It's going to be hard. Like for example, there was 2 years back that was on the United States should have background checks for guns. And that one had a very hard neg ground. But if you were sneaky with it, then you could get away with some really cool things. Like there was this team, Milburn CZ, that talked about second strike, which is basically when local governments start doing these sort of things, like the local governments start initiating these gun control policies, which doesn't allow for the federal government to make any federal restrictions. So it makes it harder for the entire federal government to do gun control when you do just local sort of measures, because each local measure is going to be inherently different. So remember, there are going to be topics with very biased AF, but try and do your best with it. The United States should adopt a no first use policy for its nuclear weapons. This one's going to be a tricky one. I'm pretty sure Israel has a first strike policy as well, and so the debate would probably be centered around having the United States follow Israel's no first strike policy. And yeah, so nuclear weapons have been a big thing, like especially since the Trump backed out of the nuclear proliferation treaty. No, did he? No. Yes. He's still a part. I'm sorry. He's still a part of the nuclear proliferation treaty, but that's been a big treaty that's like globally for like a bunch of different countries, and they basically say proliferation itself is when countries like obtain nuclear weapons. So the United States does have nuclear weapons, but it's saying that like we won't make any more. And like it's very sketchy because some countries still do proliferate and still do get weapons even when they're in the treaty. So it's very hard to regulate it. But non-proliferation, that'll definitely have a big literature base because a bunch of people like talking about it. Space was a big policy topic about 4 years back. It was about space technology. So you're probably going to read a lot of policy back files, which will help you for this public forum topic. All right, Article 4, the Outer Space Treaty should be amended to ban anti-satellite weapons, discussing the second resolution and no space elevators. Second resolution, what's the second resolution? On balance, the benefits of creating the United States Space Force outweigh the harms. Article 4, the Outer Space Treaty should be amended to ban anti-space satellites. The United States should initiate the development of space elevators that are continuing the Artemis program. I think that's really cool. I think that these would all be very cool. The one that's probably going to get chosen, just because I know public forum people and like that's how they think, is the Article 4, the Outer Space Treaty should be amended to ban anti-satellite weapons, because debaters usually like going for stuff that says weapons and like war, and then you get those war impacts and economy impacts, recession, all that sort of stuff. So it's probably going to go for number 2. And when you get into satellite weapons, that's very hard to go into. I talked about satellites back in the topic I mentioned earlier on offensive cyber operations. When that topic was around, I had my case talk about satellites, but they're very hard to talk about because of the fact that like they can be easily hacked. And if you're going to increase your satellites, then you got to make sure that they are like made properly and that they are modernized. So notice that it doesn't say we should modernize satellite weapons or do any of that sort of thing, but they're just saying you have to amend the treaty so that you're banning anti-satellite weapons. I'm not sure if they're going to have healthcare because they didn't talk about it on the June 11th, which is today. But the ones that they're going for is the United States should replace the private insurance-based healthcare system with Medicare for all. In federal systems, centralized responses to pandemics are preferable to decentralized responses. On balance, federalism undermines pandemic responses to the United States. I'm not sure about healthcare because A, they could either go full out with healthcare, especially because of COVID and the COVID pandemic, or B, they could say that the COVID pandemic is too touchy and we shouldn't touch healthcare. If it goes for the first one, talking about the insurance-based healthcare system for Medicare for all, we had a topic a while back on February on should we replace our means-tested wealth system, welfare benefit system with a universal basic income. And
It's a
yeah,
bad topic. I did not like it. And 3 out of the 5 tournaments I did last year were that topic.
it was a weird topic.
I did 2 tournaments.
But it talked about basically just like changing our way of that we held our economy. One of the means tested welfare programs was Medicare and Medicare for all. So you're probably going to get some topic literature back from that. So yeah, so it's basically privatization versus public sort of stuff. And that's probably going to be a good topic. If that becomes a topic, then I'll probably like it. Centralized responses to pandemics are preferable to decentralized responses. This is going to get political really quickly because and federalism undermines pandemic responses to the United States. This is going to get political really quickly because especially with Trump in office and how Trump has responded to the pandemic, people are going to be like, no, you shouldn't have done that, or yes, you should have done that. And they're just going to model their cases on how Trump did and what the stuff that Trump did. But yeah, it looks like I think they narrowed down free speech, but that looks like the overall of what they might go for this year. I sent the link into the chat if you want to look at this yourself. It feels weird, agriculture though. Like, agriculture, if they do it, is going to be a very weird topic because there's not much you can really do with it because it's like you got food insecurity and you got economy. There's no real nuclear war. There's no real like poverty. Well, like you can get into poverty due to food insecurity, but that's hard. But yeah, surveillance is also very hard to quantify, as we talked about earlier. If you guys have any questions about this, there has been a lot of nuke topics. That's why I think that they are going to go heavy for the non-proliferation efforts topic and talk about the no first. I think it's going to be the first one. The United States should adopt a no first use policy for its nuclear weapons. Because like, where's the neg ground on the second topic? It's saying you should modernize its nuclear command, control, and communication systems. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, that just doesn't make sense. I obviously haven't read into the topic enough, but yeah. Why is it that so many debates narrow down to war so much? And is that the main significant impact to consider? Oh, BRI morality arguments. I'll get into both of those. Okay, so first, to answer your question on why is it narrowed down to war, because it's a big impact. Debaters like going for big impacts. Usually the impacts that you're going to get are war, either conventional war, which is troops on the ground and missiles and bombing and that sort of stuff, or you're going to get nuclear war, recession and global recession or depression, because that also has a huge impact. Poverty or cyclical poverty. Cyclical poverty is just when it goes generational. You will also get, what am I missing? Terrorism, especially when it's Middle East topics. Extinction. So yeah, extinction is a terminal impact. Impact is what you give at the end of the round, is like what your case gives. A terminal impact is what is the impact of the impact. So like you could say that nuclear war is the impact, but the terminal impact of nuclear war is extinction, because like nuclear war in itself is just a concept. It's not really anything. The actual like what it does is it leads to extinction. But yeah, Omer, am I leaving out any important other economic booms and economic collapses? Those are also big ones.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think pretty sure you got all of them, unless my brain's just not working right now.
It's Yeah. Is that the main significant impact to consider? No, it's definitely one of them, but it's not the main one. And we're going to have a lecture later on talking about weighing and how you're going to weigh different impacts against one another. And you can weigh war against a different impact. So you can war like you can weigh anything against war. Like if you give me something, I can weigh against it. BRI topic, there are a few morality arguments. Be careful with morality arguments. This is not LD. This is not policy. This is public forum. It's very like you're quantifying like what's going on in the solution. You can't really quantify morality. Like you can't say 3 people were happier or something like that. So that's where I'd be very, careful with it. Yeah, no problem. Global warming, yes, climate change. I forgot climate change. That's also a big one. And the terminal impact for that one too is extinction. Yeah, but yeah, be very careful with morality arguments. The only way that I see a morality argument being feasible in public forum is A, with a tech judge, so someone who's like done policy or Lincoln Douglas before, or B, if you use a framework such as, yeah, what you're saying, like quality of life or utilitarianism. If you set the framework earlier on of being like morality and the team that increases, like that benefits morality the best, and you impact out to increase morality, then you probably have a shot. But a bunch of judges, because it's public forum, don't like doing that. People use quality of life and utilitarianism. Quality of life is usually a good impact. Usually if you're going to say quality of life, you talk about structural violence, which is a fairly common thing in public forum. You got to be very careful with structural violence because that you got to run it right. And if it gets run right against you, you got to know how to respond to it right. Utilitarianism is basically what a round should be if there is no framework set. So usually most public forum rounds, like you don't say what the framework is. It's usually known that it's like cost benefit analysis or utilitarianism. Cost benefit analysis is just, you should weigh both the costs and benefits when you're deciding how to view the round. And utilitarianism is the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Increased crime, yeah, that's also a big impact. Yeah, but you'd have to, the terminal impact off of that is either death or poverty. If it's poverty, then you should probably weigh poverty instead of crime itself. And if it's death, then just weigh crime against other stuff. But it's kind of hard to weigh crime against some bigger impact. Actually, no, it isn't. Because we'll get into like your impact doesn't necessarily have to be bigger. So like crime could only affect like 500,000 people, whereas war is like 5 million. But that doesn't mean it's not more important, because you could say that crime is more probable to happen since it's happening right now, and it's increasing on a scalar level. And 2, you could say that the time frame is shorter. It's a more urgent thing that we have to go for. War is not going to happen for a greater number of time. Also, you could say it has long-term benefits because you got to stop crime. Also, you should say like why isn't PF like values and morality? Let me first say the crime thing. Also, you could say that crime is like, if you have crime before a war, that's really, really bad, and it exacerbates what's going to happen during the war. So you have to solve that first. Why isn't PF like values and morality? So public forum in itself is called public forum because the purpose of the purpose was, policy was made first. It was made back in the 1970s, 1960s, I think. I can't remember the exact time. But it was made to be like this great debate style. It has slowly and slowly gotten more theoretical, more critical, and talking more about case and that sort of stuff. Fine. Lincoln Douglas was then made. Lincoln Douglas was made to more talk about values and value criterion, such as morality and that sort of stuff. And then public forum, which is like the newest child, and like the newest child, that's an actual debate format. I don't consider Congress an actual debate format or big questions, because like those
Congress is
yeah,
no, just no.
yeah. Although I do want to try out big questions. Parley, okay, I see it as, I'll get to Parley in a second, but anyways, public forum was made to be like this. It's called public forum because anyone should be able to walk into the room and understand what's going on, as long as you are fairly educated and know what's going on. fairly educated and you know a little bit about the topic, anyone should be able to judge a public forum round. That being said, people do stray away into that and sometimes add theoretical arguments, but that's when they know that their judge is a policy judge or a Lincoln Douglas judge. 1 second. All right, I apologize. Parley. So I kind of see it, I don't know, you can see it your own way. I kind of see it as the big three of like public forum, Lincoln Douglas, and policy. And then you have Parley off to the side.
I feel like Parley can be like a mix of all of them.
Because policy, Lincoln Douglas, and Tournament of Champions is like a really big, yeah, I'm good. Tournament of Champions is just like a really big national tournament that you have to qualify for. It's really fun if you guys get to qualify for it. Parley doesn't really have a Tournament of Champions. It has its own national thing, but Parley is like, I don't know. It's like all the other styles you have to actually prep for it before a tournament, but Parley you basically do everything while you're at a tournament.
If you guys have any other questions or anything,
Please let me know.